It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. And I see you again. Whoa, 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 you, 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 you. Hey everybody, what's up? It's the Insane Game Freak here. And so E3 is over. I've already given my thoughts and opinions on the conferences. And Nintendo fans are arguing with each other again. Great! We come out of the hole, we come out the other side, and it never seems to get any better. Alright. So, the conversation is back to third party because one of the major things that stick out from this E3 with Nintendo, other than the things I mentioned in my previous E3 video about their E3 presentation, is the fact that there really wasn't that many third party announcements for Nintendo. And so the argument has now gone back and forth between whose fault it is, what's the problem, how do we fix it, how does Nintendo fix it, all this shit. And I'm going to try to be addressing all sides because everybody's saying things that are right and wrong and we need to just look at this objectively. First things first. To be real with you, we are consumers. The reason why we know anything about the industry, the developers, the fucking publishers, the producers of the game and game development and all that other shit, is nerd shit. I want that to be stated. It's nerd shit. The reason why we know all that stuff is because we're nerds and we like games. We like that as a form of entertainment media. We love that shit and we want to get as involved and as immersed into that shit as we want. Hence why we know about Capcom and their practices and EA and BioWare and Nintendo and the various different companies within Nintendo like Retro and shit. We know our Tokyo EAD. That's nerd shit. From a consumer standpoint, they don't give a fuck about any of that. They give a fuck about can they go home after they come home from work, take your game, pop it into a disc, pop it into their console of choice, put up their controller, maybe talk to their friends online, whether it's through Skype, Discord, or even in-game voice chat, depending on the console you're on, and fucking play a few rounds of Overwatch, or FIFA, or Madden, or NBA, or fucking Destiny, or fucking Anthem when that comes out. You know, that's all the fuck the consumer cares about. So a lot of this shit I'm talking about, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter on the consumer side. What it really boils down to is that Nintendo, we want you to get these third-party games. We don't really give a fuck about how you get them. That's like if you're here for the TLDR version. That's it. As a consumer, you don't need to give a fuck. You're not required to give a fuck. All you need to do is sit there and be like, Nintendo, bring the shit out. If you're not gonna bring the shit out, I'm gonna go somewhere else. So that's what it boils down to. Because as I said, a normal consumer doesn't need to give a fuck about any of that. They're here to please us. Therefore, we are not required to give a flying fuck about anything else other than when's the game coming out, is it good, and does it have the features I want at the price I want? Yes. Congratulations, you get my money. That's literally what it boils down to. If you're here for that, there you go. But if you want to actually talk about the in-depth reasonings and the things that you don't have to care about, but you do, then let's have some fun. Okay, so first things first is the third-party situation. This year was something I immediately expected. When I came into this year, even after seeing that image, it wasn't like I'm sitting there getting overly excited about every single fucking name that was on that third-party list that Nintendo showed at the Switch presentation in January. Because I know that's not how this shit works. You don't just flip scripts that fucking quickly. Nothing happens that quick. That shit has to be built up and has to be earned on some level. And considering most of those companies have either never developed for a Nintendo system or the last time they did, they didn't make any fucking money, I wouldn't expect it much. I'm actually pretty happy with what we've gotten so far because even though Capcom is phoning it in and upcharging games and shit, And look, at least the core of Street Fighter 2, Ultra Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, whatever the fuck it's called, at least that works. The Hado mode is a lazy Wii bullshit gimmick thing. Alright, cool. It's better than what I thought we were going to get. FIFA 18. It's not surprising that the sports game would be gimped as fuck. Would be gimped as fuck on the Nintendo console because we went through this last generation. But hey, at least it still looks like a relatively competent port, and it's alright. Probably still won't sell worth a damn because of the way it's structured, but it might be offset by the fact that the Switch has a really good gimmick behind it and can easily be pushed, even if the game doesn't run as well, if the game doesn't have all the same modes. Well, fuck it has the online mode, it has the multiplayer. It's all it fucking really needs is a fucking FIFA game. No one plays FIFA for single player, or no one openly admits to playing FIFA for single player. Most people play it for multiplayer because that's what you see online all the goddamn time. I didn't mean to have that rhyme; it just happened. It's been all right, but people are running around screaming about this shit of, oh, Nintendo, you need to start paying and buying all these rights to get these third-party games on your system. And it's funny because the argument keeps changing, and unfortunately the Wii U has ruined the part in the Nintendo fan base that was willing to call third parties out on it anymore. Now it's all of it's Nintendo's fault. Like, people sit there and say, I'm being objective and I'm looking at both sides, but you're only calling out Nintendo in your video, which tells me that you're full of shit. You're saying that as a goddamn defense. What you really mean to say is you just don't want to be called a hypocrite. Therefore, you're just saying I think they're both at fault, but I'm only really pointing out Nintendo's problems. And a good example of this is that, Nintendo, you need to go around, you need to start paying to get all these games. That's it. As I said before, from the consumer standpoint, sure, that's perfectly fine to think that kind of way. But as someone who looks and is interested in the industry, you should know better, because you would know that Nintendo's already been doing that. And you would also know, and this is the way I've always thought of the Switch's first year, and probably the Wii U too, to an extent, is that Nintendo would have to prove themselves the majority of the generations. I even said it before the Switch came out. I said, the Switch probably won't get all the third-party support even by the end of the generation, because they have to earn it now. That was what the Wii U was supposed to do, and we saw how that ended. But the whole idea is Nintendo is going to have to re-earn that level of trust back into third party before they just automatically put their games on the system. It's not an automatic thing. You have to earn that shit. Third parties are waiting and watching the consoles come out and then kind of placing bets in generations and shit. On top of which, the Wii U also taught a lot of these third party developers they can't just put the same game out. Now, granted, part of that was because, and then here comes the issue, the third parties are using failed games and bad ported games as a reasoning for not supporting a more popular and well-established system, which is dumb as fuck because it was partially your own fault that the game didn't even come out and sell right in the first place. You put out a rushed game that was late, which is fucking amazing how you can do that. You put out a game that was rushed in terms of quality and late in terms of release dates with other versions of the game, and then you were so fucking surprised when the game didn't sell. Everybody wants to fucking forget that part of the argument, which annoys the shit out of me, because that's still fucking relevant. You cannot say, oh, well, the Wii U games didn't sell because Nintendo fans aren't used to buying third-party games. That wasn't all of it. The part of it was the fact that you put out games that ran worse than its competitors, and they were later than its competitors, which is terrible. At least if the game's going to be late, make the shit interesting. The advantage with the Switch is that the interesting part of the Switch version of games is built into the console itself, so developers just got to put a good port, which was the problem with Wii U. With Wii U, you had to go out of your way to do something special for the gamepad. If you wanted to do something special for the Switch, just put it on the fucking Switch, because then you can throw. It's how they're marketing FIFA right now. It's the best looking portable FIFA game. You know why they can say that? Because that's true. And all they did was port the game. It's still like a lesser port, but it's so easy to say some shit because the console pretty much markets itself. There's really nothing you got to do for this fucking thing. That's what trips me out. So I don't agree with that thought process that it's because of the Wii U. You need to blame the Wii U. No, I also blame the third party. Because the third party put out shitty fucking games late. That's like the worst. And then said, oh, well, we can't look at these sales. The fuck? You put out the shitty game. Now, to be fair about it, Nintendo had an architecture that was very different from PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, which already by themselves had two different architectures, and PS3 was already kind of a pain to develop for. People just found over time it was worth it more in the long haul and start putting out better games. Remember, the PS3 got shitty ports all the time in the beginning. It was the same bunch of bullshit. But they stuck it out because the game started picking up steam, the console started picking up steam. But guess what Sony was doing in the background? They were putting out games, and they were proving it that this fucking thing can have good games and can make compelling ass software. And here it is, motherfucker. Buy our console, and third party said, all right, fuck it. We gotta put out some quality on this shit. If we want to make some real money, we need to put out quality on this shit. And they went out of their time to learn the damn architecture. The Wii U didn't go that way because Nintendo, I mean, let's think about it. Mario 3D World didn't come out until near the end of 2013, like at the very end of the Wii U's first year. Same thing goes for Pikmin, which came out in August, Rayman Legends, Sonic Lost World. All those games came out like Wonderful 101 came out like near the end of the Wii U's first year. And this is what I believe. Nintendo has to take this first year of the Switch and they're gonna put it on their fucking backs. They gotta carry their own console and prove it. And one of the best examples of that is recently with the announcement of Rocket League for Switch. There was an interview that came out, which I'll put in the link in the description, where the developers were like, well, Nintendo approached us. So right there, it's already proving that Nintendo's doing exactly what you people are complaining about. They're just not doing it as much because realistically, you can't money hack every fucking game. Do you realize how many games Nintendo would have to put their hand, spend money on? And at the end of it all, I'm broke and oh, okay, well the games were on my console and may or may not sell well. That's a hell of a risk, which Nintendo's already taking with putting without. Because Bomberman, they approached Konami on. That wasn't a Konami thing. That was Nintendo being like, can we get Bomberman? Same thing for Skyrim. They're publishing Skyrim in the West. I don't know. Well, actually, I think they're just publishing Skyrim in general. I know the North American, I think they're publishing Skyrim. But going back to the Rocket League example, Nintendo approached them. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. Well, we were pretty wary about whether or not we could get the game to run on Switch. And then they saw how well Mario Kart 8 ran, which proved to them that they could do it. And then it was like, well, fuck it, now we got to do it because we know we can do it. If you can put Mario Kart 8, a game like that on that system, then that's what I'm saying. Nintendo has to prove the power of their own console. They've got the concept works, and you can, and it's proven to people just from the initial sales that you can get people invested into the concept of the console. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the games are going to automatically just start pouring in. But when you see things like Breath of the Wild come out, or Super Mario Odyssey, or fucking Mario Kart 8, and all those games run smooth as shit and have really cool things in them, like physics engines and whatnot, and dynamic lighting and shit, that's when third-party developer goes, alright, this shit ain't weak as I thought it was. Maybe I should try putting the game out on it. That's what I'm saying. Like, part of this is just Nintendo spending this year putting out their games by themselves to prove to third parties that, yo, we got this. The shit can make money and the shit's easy to develop for. Nintendo pretty much appeased most of the concerns that third parties had. They bought it with Capcom adding more RAM into the system. They fucking made the system easy to develop for. They had the dev kits out to them in a timely fashion. I mean, granted, not everything's gone perfectly. They haven't done everything right. But they've made huge fucking strides to where they were in the Wii U situation, where people weren't getting dev kits until way late into the game, even though we knew about the console for what, like 2 years? Before it even released, like a year, at least a year and a half, if not 2 years, before the goddamn console even released. So at that point, can you really keep still saying, oh, that's on Nintendo? It's bullshit. That's part of that's just on fucking third parties dicking around. That's third parties are being paranoid. And as I say, I can understand the paranoia because it's a Nintendo system, and for certain franchises that have never really been on Nintendo systems, I can understand that paranoia, which is why I'm not surprised a lot of games weren't fucking announced. But some of these fuckers who are just saying things like, oh, well, you know, and where it becomes this argument of whether or not it's like, oh, well, the games on Wii U didn't sell, therefore I'm not going to port games to the Switch. You mean the Wii U port that you put out that was late and rushed? And people throw out games like Need for Speed Most Wanted. The game was late. Yeah, it was a good port, but the game was late. And that means a lot. And it wasn't even like a month late. It was like, what, 6 months? It was like 3. I think it was like 3 to 6 months late. And you were like, yeah, that shit's not going to sell. Or games were missing features. Batman Arkham Origins on the Wii U was missing its fucking multiplayer mode. Did the multiplayer mode suck ass? Fuck yeah, it did. But guess what? I'm still not going to fucking pay for a console version of a game that you're going to still charge me the full $60 for and then take out a feature because you just didn't feel like programming the shit in. And that's the other thing. People like, and then the whole multi-console owner shit, which is used in both situations. It's used by Nintendo fans as saying, well, I got my coverage. And then it's also used by Nintendo fans who were like, well, this is what makes me a real gamer because I play all these games. That's bullshit. You can be biased as fuck and own every fucking game system that ever existed. Your bias does not mean shit. People are like, well, I own multiple consoles. I hate that fucking argument, by the way. There are so many gamers in the Nintendo community who do that dumb shit and say, oh, look at me, I own an Xbox One, I own a gaming PC, I own a PlayStation 4, and I'm going to get an Xbox One X. And be like, oh, see, I'm an objective gamer. The fuck you are? Your bias is shit. Your bias does not matter. What you spend your money on does not determine how biased you are. Fuck out of here. I hate when Nintendo people do that shit for any fucking console. It does not matter what console you own. That's bullshit. That just means you have a lot of money to spend and you're willing to spend a decent amount of money on a hobby. Congratulations, you have more money than me to spend on fucking video games. To me, that's always a fucking insult. Oh, because you own multiple consoles. And the same thing that goes for people who own multiple consoles and that like, oh, these are all my safety nets. Well, that doesn't mean that's not good either because if anything, you're just saying that it's perfectly fine that Nintendo doesn't get these games. Well, it doesn't matter if Nintendo doesn't get it because I'll buy it on my PlayStation 4. Yeah, but you should want your console to get those games. That's the point I'm trying to make with this video. Both of you have arguments that are valid. That yes, there's nothing wrong with asking for these games, but also you got to also hold the third parties into account of it. Everybody wants to, like recently, everyone wants to be on this, oh, we're back on this, oh, it's Nintendo fucking up again. But no one wants to look at the objective side and be like, yo, wait a minute. It wasn't like well, wait a minute. Nintendo made the console easy to develop for. They made a gimmick that's very unintrusive. You still have your full button layouts. They're paying a pay online service. They're bringing cloud saves. It's like you don't want to address the accomplishments and you want to give them a whole bunch of shit on the voice chat app, which granted is something worth calling out. But at the same fucking time, you're not holding the third parties. You know, the same third parties who dick around every gamer period. Mass Effect Andromeda, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, the dumb shit with Call of Duty and Destiny, and people want to, but Anthem's gonna be a great game, guys. I don't understand this shit. You can't sit here and throw Nintendo on the bus and then sit over and be like, I'm an objective gamer though. Nintendo on the bus, the third party's over here looking like gold, and then you're over here making statements like, well, Nintendo, you need to pay these third party. You need to pay these third-party gamers. These third-party companies to get their games on your console. Well, even if you paid them, they would also have to publish the game. They would probably have to help co-develop it to get it out in time for a lot of these in time at this point, because most of them probably haven't even started. If you're the one following the industry, you should know developing multiplayer is hard as fuck. The reason why the Xbox gets it, because a lot of people make the argument, well, Xbox gets a whole bunch of Japanese games now. Well, that's partially because it takes less money to port the game from PlayStation 4 to Xbox One. Like that's literally it. Like, the Switch is easy to develop for, but it still takes more work than it would to just lower some fucking settings on Xbox. Lower some fucking settings to get it to work on Xbox. That's all they gotta do for Xbox. Whereas, like, for Switch, it requires a little bit more work. And then, granted, that's just something they're gonna have to deal with. Like at this point, if it's easy to develop for, that tells me that Nintendo's done everything they could do to make it very developer friendly for you to come onto the platform. The point now is whether or not third parties are going to be fucking real about this shit and dip their hands in and dip their toes into the Nintendo pool. If they're not, then at that point, whose fault is that? Is that really only Nintendo's fault again? Or can we start holding the third parties to another standard? I mean, we're letting them. I mean, how many of you people are still ready to buy Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, even though the games has DLC characters that have been in other games, and the roster is weak as shit, and the game looks so fucking bad. I mean, it doesn't look bad in motion. It just looks bad when you stop and look at shit, like in cutscenes. Some of the cutscenes look weak as fuck, and it's a Capcom game. Or how, people bought Street Fighter 5, and that game had the same fucking bullshit problems. Gamers are fucking stupid because they want to act like it's only on one side of the fence, but they don't want to address every other point. Like, you'll sit there and talk about how Nintendo needs to pay these third-party developers, but you never address the idea of, well, wait a minute, these are the same third parties who put out these shitty fucking ports on the previous console and rushed it. And then somewhere in the back will be, and then the response should be, well, that's because the Wii U had architecture that was hard to develop for. Well, that's fair. That's a fair point. But if you're going to put the console game out and know it's rushed, then you shouldn't hinge your whole fucking future business on Nintendo platforms on a rush game that you know is rushed and is unoptimized. But see, the problem is we don't get to that point. We'll get to the part we'll stop at is that, well, the Wii U architecture was complicated, and that's the end of the fucking argument. People don't want to go that if you're gonna have the debate and you're gonna sit there and tell your audience some shit, don't be real about it. You need to address all points. Don't address the first two and be like that's the whole fucking story. As I said at the beginning, if you're a consumer, you really don't need to give a fuck about any of this. But I'm talking to the gamers who are into the industry and are looking this shit up. And the way I look at it is, okay, cool. Nintendo is appealing. It needs to do, because to me, my thought process was, especially considering how people acted about near the end of the Wii U, was this whole Nintendo has just fucked over all of its fans. But you're overly concerned about third party right now. Shouldn't you be concerned about Nintendo appealing to their fans and getting their fans happy first before we start worrying about third party? Because if Nintendo can't get their core fans back, how do you expect them to get third party fans back? They need to get both. They need both, right? That's what everyone keeps saying. You need third party and first party. Well, let them do this year for first party and next year for third party. Because they still got to prove themselves to third party too, for obvious fucking reasons. I think I'm done. I feel good. All right, I'm going to stop. Anyways, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Oh, Discord in the description. Vid me in the description. I don't even think most of you. Hey, if you can't get to the end of this video, type cookie, a big ass cookie in the comments. If you can find a picture, like a text cookie icon that you can paste in there, it'd be great. If you can't, just type the word cookie. I appreciate it. Anyways, let's gameplay to win, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Oh ho 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 ho. Look inside of my mind. Look inside. Also, that Switch update's pretty cool.